Sabres are in St. Louis. Not quite Sabres after dark, but approaching dark. 8 o'clock puck drop on Thursday night. Previewing it next here in the Locked On Sabres podcast.
Your Locked On Sabres, your daily podcast on the Buffalo Sabres. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello. Welcome everybody into the Locked On Sabres podcast and making us your first listen every day. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Check us out on our Locked On Sabres text line, the Sorties group chat. Join subtext.com/LockedOnSabres if you want to sign up for the low price of $4.99 a month, the price of this cup of coffee that I have in my hand right now. You can get it for cheap. Come in, help us, or not help us out, but talk with us during games. We're going back and forth as the games go on. That's my favorite feature. News updates, practice updates. You'll be getting that very shortly, as I had to hit record here on a Thursday morning before the Sabres get to the ice in St. Louis, but we have a pretty good idea of what the lineup will look like. So apologies ahead of time if there is one change or two changes to the lineup, but looks like we know what it's going to be. Speaking of that text line, by the way, our most recent episode, check that out on Devin Levi being sent down to Rochester. Jacob texted in, I'm with you on Comrie, but this probably helps Levi more. Some stability and consistency, and who's going to be in net for the first time in a long time will be nice. Whether or not they play stable and consistent is a different question. That's from Jacob on our Sorties group chat. And that was kind of the overall sentiment for our last episode, that this is a good thing for Levi. He'll get some action in Rochester, but St. Louis is what is ahead for the Buffalo Sabres. We'll look through the lineup, what's the Blues record, and why I'll tell you they're not as good as I think, as their record is, and some of the odds for tonight's game. I feel pretty confident. We're going to get that parlay tonight. We're going to get it. We've hit on the anytime goals. We have not yet got to the three legs. I'm feeling lucky. Feeling lucky tonight. At Stinky Joe Sports, if you want to follow me on Twitter. Before I get into anything with the game, I wanted to share and maybe even, suggest that you go find a good piece by the guys over at Sabermetrics. The guys over at the Charging Buffalo at Sabermetrics on Twitter, where you can find the article recently about 11 versus 7 and 12 versus 6, 12 versus 6. So 12 forwards, 6 defensemen versus 11 forwards and 7 defensemen. It's been something that I thought is awkward and haven't necessarily liked. It's not traditional, and you usually only do it when you feel like you have to. But to be fair, as Sabermetrics points out, the Sabres have actually been better this year with 11 forwards versus 12. This season, 4-1-1, 9 points in 6 games with 11 forwards and 7D. And with 12 forwards and 60, they are 6-9-1, 13 points in 16 games. The 5-on-5 play, their expected goals for percentage is 53.5% with 11 forwards. It's 45% with 12 forwards. They're a more offensive team. They're a better defensive team when they have 11 forwards and 7D. So I don't really know what necessarily explains that. It could be what Don Granato told me on our show WGR on Tuesday, that it kind of gets you into the third periods of games where you could just roll 3 lines and those guys can be in more of a rhythm. So maybe that's it, but it's a little interesting. It could also just be that Ryan Johnson is a better hockey player than whoever their 12th forward would be. That's also a very good possibility here. I might want to say, though, that part of the reason that I don't even pick on one guy here. Part of the reason that their record and their numbers look better with 11 forwards and 7 defensemen is because when you have 7 defensemen, you are limiting the ice time of Erik Johnson at 5-on-5. And Erik Johnson at 5-on-5 has been pretty rough. And you kind of relegate him to being a penalty kill specialist. And in that way, I don't mind it. If you were going to tell me we're going to roll 11 forwards and 7 defensemen all the time, our penalty kill was horrible last year, here's what we're going to do. We're going to roll 3 pairings, and Ryan Johnson's going to be a regular part of the pairings. Erik Johnson is not going to have a regular pair. We'll mix him in once in a while here and there, and otherwise he's going to play in penalty kill situations and all of the penalty kill situations. All right, I could sign up for that. I'm not sure that's necessarily, you need a roster spot for that, but if that's what they want to go with, then I'm good with that. And that maybe is a little bit of the impact that's happening in front of our eyes. Will we get 11 forwards or 12 forwards against the Blues? Again, at moment of recording, we don't necessarily know yet. But after reading through and watching practice yesterday, I think we have a pretty good idea of what we are going to see. So a projected lineup for tonight's game, 8 o'clock puck drop in St. Louis. Here is what we are looking at. On the first line, no surprise, Middlestat with Skinner and Tuck, Benson with Cousins and Peterka on line 2. Their top 6 has been working for a couple of games here, save the New Jersey game. Why not keep rolling with it? The bottom 6, I do think, Granato said Jordan Greenway was likely to be in the lineup. How I see the Krebs line going is Krebs at center with Greenway and Okposo together. And then Tyson Jost with Isaac Rosen and Victor Olofsson. Rosen was skating on a regular line at practice on Wednesday. That would imply to me that he will be in the lineup. I think they're going to go 12 forwards with Greenway inserting back into the lineup. My guess on the blue line would be that Henry Jokiharju is going to be the one that is out, given that he was skating with Jacob Bryson. I don't necessarily agree. I think Jokiharju should be in the lineup over Erik Johnson if they indeed are going to go with 6 defensemen. But for now, I think my guess would be Samuelson with Dahlin, Power with Ryan Johnson, and Connor Clifton with Erik Johnson. We do know for sure that Ukko-Pekka Luukkonen will be between the pipes for the Sabres with Eric Comrie as the backup, of course, as he is now the only goaltender on the Sabres roster. I like this lineup. I, again, would make one change and put Jokiharju in over Erik Johnson. I do think that the Sabres getting a consistent second line with Dylan Cousins and JJ Peterka and Zach Benson is going to help them out in a big way. And I think it's going to be good for Cousins. Cousins has been bouncing around the lineup. There were certain lines that Cousins has been on this year where he's been asked to kind of carry the load. This line, Peterka has been playing great, scoring chances and speed. Benson is a smart player that makes the right decision a lot and is good in his own end, by the way. Benson's been getting some penalty kill minutes lately. Kind of relieves some of the pressure off of Cousins, I think, to have both of these guys on his line. And I like Greenway to help out that Krebs and Okposo line a lot, if that's the way that it's going to be. I've liked Greenway, and I think that's his type of line. All right, that is a pesky defensive line, and I do think if you get to the third period and you want to roll 3 lines the way Granato has in some of these games, I think the Jost, Olofsson, and Rosen line is the line that you sit. We'll see. I hope Rosen's able to give them more than what we've seen in limited action so far, because I thought he earned a call-up. I thought, being a point-per-game player in Rochester is worthy of a look, and we'll see if we get any signs of this guy's an NHL player in tonight's game against the Blues, again, assuming that he is in the lineup. So that's what we're looking at. I'll do one last check of Twitter here before we move on to what's going on in St. Louis to see if we are going to get anything from the Sabres lineup, and we do not at this moment. Wait, yes, we do. And it is exactly what I said. Exactly what I said. So no changes. No changes. Everything I just said when I said I'm guessing or I'm projecting, just replace those words with this is what it looks like it's going to be. This is expected at this point. So those are the lines. Those are the pairings. And we know for sure UPL is going to be in goal. When we come back, the Blues. Why I think they're a little fluky. Some of the underlying numbers say that. But I'll tell you why the record is what it is. Why they could sustain it. There's one thing with the Blues that is different than, say, I've been very critical of the Red Wings recently and why they are fluky, or they are not going to sustain what they're doing. The Blues could, and there's one reason why for that. That's coming up in the Locked On Sabres podcast. We are presented by Game Time. Hey, if you're in the St. Louis area, you're a Sabre fan, tonight's the night. Tickets are not that expensive. Head to the Game Time app. Check out your seats for what you could get for tonight's game. If you are in Buffalo, like most of my listeners here, or in Southern Ontario, then check out some of the tickets for Sunday against Nashville. A lot available. And without the Bills playing, there's a lot of opportunity there. Shouldn't have to worry when you're buying tickets to your next big event. Game Time's the fast and easy way to buy tickets for all sports, music, comedy, theater events near you. Game Time, the only ticketing app that gives you complete peace of mind with your purchase. My favorite function is that you get to see your view of your seat before you buy it, so you know what to expect when you arrive. All-in prices show your total up front, so you don't get those hidden fees where, oh, my ticket's only going to cost $20. And then you get to the checkout screen and suddenly it's $38 because of fees and whatnot. That's not hidden on the Game Time app. Right up front, you know exactly what you're going to be paying for. Buy tickets in seconds with just 2 taps. Download the Game Time app, create an account, use the code LOCKEDONNHL. You're going to get $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account, redeem code LOCKEDONNHL, LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off. Download Game Time today. Last minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. Sneaky Joe DiBiase back here on the Locked On Sabres podcast. Thanks for making us your first listen every day. Locked On's launched the first ever national sports 24/7 streaming channel on YouTube. Locked On Sports Today, here for your 24/7, covering the top stories of the day with the local experts of Locked On, plus our national shows covering every league. Go to Locked On Sports Today on YouTube and subscribe to the first ever national sports 24/7 streaming channel. The Blues are tonight's opponent for the Buffalo Sabres, the St. Louis Blues. What do we got there? A team that has been down in the dumps for, maybe it was only 1 year last year, but a little bit of a mini rebuild, getting rid of some pieces like a Vladimir Tarasenko and plenty of others. The youth movement definitely in full effect there. They've kind of turned over the team to a young core that contains Robert Thomas, Jordan Kyrou, Jake Neighbors is a new guy on the block. He's playing on their first line, 21 years old, first-round pick, 26th overall a couple of years ago. He's got 7 goals in 21 games so far this year. Maybe I over-exaggerated the youth movement because, they still do have those veterans. Pavel Buchnevich is their second leading scorer at 28 years old. Braden Shen is their fourth leading scorer at 32. Justin Falk, Kevin Hayes, Brandon Saad, Torrey Krug. Their scores 4 through 8 are all 30-plus. So their best players are their young players, but all of their secondary pieces are 30-plus. Shen, Falk, Hayes, Saad, and Krug. So they're trying to win right now, maybe while also trying to do a little bit of a retool, kind of a middling it, if you will. So that's kind of the confusion that's happening with the Blues lineup. It kind of reads like a team that is going to find their way to squeaking into the playoffs, but you will not expect to do anything once they're there. Like literally anything. Nobody will be picking them to do anything and go deep in the playoffs if they do make it. Today, sitting in the standings, in the first wild card spot, 23 points in 21 games, a -4 goal differential, not necessarily great for the Blues. Some of their underlying numbers. How about their 5-on-5 expected goals for percentage on the season? 30th. There are only 2 teams worse in expected goals for percentage than the Blues, the Blackhawks and the Sharks. That is it. And if you look at the way they play games, it's mostly because they are pretty big risk takers. If you look, which is kind of strange. It's not what you would expect from the Blues. Expected goals allowed, they are 6th in the NHL. Like they give up a lot of chances, a lot of quality scoring chances. But why is their record what it is? They've got a hot goaltender. Jordan Binnington, the crazy guy from over in St. Louis, who you barely have to do anything and you'll set the guy off for nothing. One of the biggest jerks in the league, maybe. Binnington has a .910 save percentage on the season, which is pretty damn good for the chances. As I mentioned, they give up a lot of chances. That's represented in his underlying numbers. Goals saved above expected. He ranks 14th in the NHL out of 64 goaltenders. So definitely one of the better starting goalies on the year thus far. Binnington's is always rocky, though. It's kind of how he, is with these, non-hockey things where he gets into, where he tries to fight everybody. He's just kind of a head case, right? You want to be careful, I guess, these days with that saying, because some guys actually have some mental issues that are real. Binnington, though, you know what I mean. You never know what you're going to get. You never know what you're going to get from Jordan Binnington. So, yeah, first 20 games of the year, he's a top 14 goalie in the league, but he could be a bottom 14 goalie for the rest of the year, and nobody would really be that surprised. Why I think they're different than some other teams, like Detroit, for instance, is even though Binnington has had his ups and his downs, If you look at his career, he has had a couple of seasons where he's maintained it for the entire season. He was a .927 goalie in 18-19 when they went on to win the Stanley Cup. He had a .912 the year after, a .910. He's had seasons like this where he's been able to do it for the full season. Twice he's had Vezina votes. I feel more confident that Binnington can go a whole stretch than, again, to compare them to Detroit, than Ville Husso could, who used to be his backup, by the way, and used to split time with. So that's a little bit on the Blues. Their line combinations for this game. Robert Thomas, the first line center, as I mentioned, their best player. Pavel Buchnevich on the left wing. Jake Neighbors, the kid I just mentioned, first round pick from a couple years ago, on the right wing. He's getting top line minutes right away. Second line, Braden Shen centering Kevin Hayes and Jordan Kyrou. Third line, Oscar Sundqvist with Kasperi Kapanen and Brandon Saad. It's not a bad top nine. It really isn't. They just don't have a ton of star power. They don't have like a superstar. Thomas is good, but as your best forward. And then their fourth line, Nikita Alexandrov, Alexei Toropchenko, I believe is how you pronounce it. First time meeting him. Hi, Alexei. Sammy Blaze is the other guy in line for more of a tough guy. The defense pairings, Nick Leddy with Colton Parayko, Torrey Krug with Justin Falk, Marco Scandella still hanging around the NHL on the third pair in St. Louis with Tyler Tucker. So the blue line, same thing. Like, hey, I kind of like it. It's pretty, solid. You got some veterans in there, but they don't have like a clear-cut number one. They don't have a Dahlin. They don't have a Thompson. They're pretty good depth-wise, but they lack star power on this Blues team. And Binnington will be your starting goaltender against the Buffalo Sabres. That's a little bit on the St. Louis Blues. When we come back, it's time to hit on the same game parlay. Let's go. We are getting it tonight. I'm telling you. We are getting it tonight. I'll let you know what our parlay is when we come back on the Locked On Sabres podcast. We are presented by eBay Motors. Passion, drive, and patience. What brings home the winning trophy is also what keeps your ride or die alive. eBay Motors is everything you need to maintain your vehicle and level it up to peak performance. From superchargers, roof racks, exhaust kits, LED headlights, and more. Whether you're into speed, power, or style, eBay Motors has got you covered. With over 122 million parts for your number one ride or die, you'll always find exactly what you're looking for. And with eBay Guaranteed Fit, your part is guaranteed to fit your ride every time or your money back. Because with eBay Motors, you're burning rubber, not cash. With all the parts you need at the prices you want, it's super easy to turn your car into the MVP and bring home that win. Keep your ride or die alive at ebaymotors.com. Eligible items only. Exclusions apply. eBay Guaranteed Fit only available to U.S. customers. Welcome back to the Locked On Sabres podcast. Thanks for making us your first listen every day, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Let's get to my bets for tonight's game, my same game parlay, and I am feeling very confident that we are going to hit on it tonight. Let's go to my the odds first off and foremost before we get to the parlay itself. The favorite in this game is the St. Louis Blues at -125. -125. The Sabres at +104. For you non-bettors out there, the Blues at -125, you would have to bet 125 to win 100. For the Sabres, if you bet 100, you would win 104. The over-under in this game is 6.5. -115 on the over, -105 on the under, so pretty close to even there. My parlay of the day. All right. We're going to start with leg number 1. 4 in a row, anytime goal scorers I have hit on. 3 in a row, excuse me. This would be 4 in a row. Let's go Zach Benson, anytime goal scorer. It's where I began this streak. I had him when he scored his first NHL goal. Didn't project that he would do it like that, between the legs. Here's why I like Benson. As I'm looking through the odds, I'll put it up the odds for those of you that are watching along on our YouTube channel. Hi, by the way. You can watch us on our YouTube channel, any episode. So, looking at the odds, Benson is -450. -450. If you look at all the other guys in the Sabres top 6, where are they? Skinner +150, Tuck +160, Peterka +250. I've been on Peterka because they have not reacted odds-wise to how much he's been scoring. Now they have. He went up from +330 to +250 since the last game. So Peterka +250, Middlestat +350. I skipped Cousins +260. Benson is +450. I'm getting the best bang for my buck for a Sabres top 6 winger. And Benson is being trusted with ice time late in the game. Over 18 minutes of ice time against the Rangers. He was on the ice trying to close that game out, which to me means there is potential for Benson to be on the ice in an empty net situation. And that's a part of this as well. So I'm getting a top 6 forward at a bottom 6 price. And I do believe that if the Sabres are up, he could be on the ice for an empty net goal situation. Benson at plus 450. The same odds as Kyle Okposo, by the way, is my first leg of this game. Second leg, I am just going Sabres clean on the money line. Sabres to win their second game in a row. They don't win 2 games in a row often. They've only done it one other time this year, but they play well on the road. The Blues, as I mentioned, third worst team in expected goals for this season. Not a lot of star power. Not a very dangerous team, in my opinion. And Binnington is rocky. You don't know what version of him is going to show up. So while he's been good this year, I think the Sabres can get a couple on him. I don't think they'll get a ton on him, though, because I'm going under 6.5 goals in this game. Ukko-Pekka Luukkonen in goal again. He has been turning away shots at an incredible clip. The Sabres, by the way, as much as we loved their performance on Monday against the New York Rangers, expected goals for scored on the season, the Buffalo Sabres rank 20th. And we all know what their numbers look like in terms of goals scored on the season, in terms of the league. Last year, they were top 5 in the league in goals for. This year, they're 19th in the league in goals scored, tied with Calgary and Florida. So they're down offensively. You've got Binnington in net. Again, there is potential for him to play fine. I still think, though, you don't need him to play great to get to the under because Luukkonen on the other side has been so solid. So I'm going with Zach Benson, anytime goal scorer, Sabres on the money line, and under 6.5 goals in this game. That is plus 1,845, plus 1,845, 10 to win 184, 100 to win 100 to win. Why can't I do math in my head right now? 1,800. That is what you're looking at for my same game parlay of the day. I believe we are going to hit tonight. This is the time we do it. Everybody, if you want to follow along and react to me losing my you-know-what when we're not winning it, be sure to hit up the text line because I'll definitely lose my bleep when I don't hit, of course, because that's been happening every game. That's really the best part of our text line is come watch me melt down when the Benson scores the 7th goal of the game to hit on the Benson bet, but lose on the under. It's always fun. But we love the commentary back and forth. We'll have updates from practice a little bit later on our text line as well. Join subtext.com/LockedOnSabres if you want to get involved. Hopefully we get a Sabres win. And if we do, we'll be a lot happier on the next show. So stay tuned to the Locked On Sabres podcast. We'll talk to you after Sabres and Blues. Enjoy the game, 8 o'clock puck drop, and we'll talk to you afterwards. And in the meantime, again, be sure to check out Locked On Sports Today's 24/7 streaming channel on YouTube. Here for your 24/7 covering the top stories of the day with the local experts of Locked On, plus our national shows covering every league. Go to Locked On Sports Today on YouTube and subscribe to the first ever national sports 24/7 streaming channel.